Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, let's understand what is YAML, why is YAML important for DevOps and cloud engineers, and how to write YAML files. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will gain confidence to write your YAML files. So just make sure you watch this video till the end. First things first, what is YAML? So YAML is basically human readable data serialization language. What does that mean? Let's take an example. I'm sure every one of you are aware of AWS. So if you take a resource of AWS, something like EC2, whenever you create EC2 instance as DevOps engineer, there are bunch of properties for this EC2 instance. For example, name of the EC2 instance, right? Whenever you create an EC2 instance, there is a name for the EC2 instance, ID of the EC2 instance, key value pair assigned to the EC2 instance, bunch of tags assigned to the instance, subnet ID, CIDR block. There are a bunch of such properties related to this instance. Now let's say one of the developers, they reach out to you and they tell you that Abhishek, I'm looking for all the properties of my EC2 instance. Can you please share that with me? Now, as a DevOps engineer, imagine you just create a text file, right? A file of TXT format, and you start putting values there. So you'll say, okay, name of the EC2 instance, demo, comma, ID of the EC2 instance, XYZ, key value pair of the EC2 instance, abc.pem, tags of the EC2 instance, tag1, tag2. While you have provided all of the information to the developer, this is not a readable format. Moreover, this data is not serialized. So if the developer tries to read the file, or maybe if the developer writes a script to fetch some value related to the EC2 instance, maybe developer wants to fetch tags assigned to the EC2 instance. Because you provided that in a format that is not readable, the purpose is not solved. Whereas if you use a serialized data format, something like YAML, and you provide information, name, demo, ID, XYZ, tags, tag1, tag2, key value pair. Now this particular thing is far better readable. And because this is in a proper serialized format, even if the developer is writing a shell script or developer is writing a Python script, this script can go over each of the line, probably through a for loop, and get the exact thing that the developer is looking for. Developer can write a script, fetch the first tag that is assigned to the EC2 instance. And it's very easy to get in this particular format and not in the format. So YAML is human readable data serialization language. Are there any human readable data serialization languages which are widely used by the developers and DevOps engineers? Definitely, JSON is an alternative to YAML. However, there are advantages of YAML which makes DevOps engineers use YAML more than JSON. This is also an interview question. A lot of times interviewers ask, why do you prefer YAML? Like, why not JSON? To be honest, there are advantages of JSON, there are advantages of YAML. So in this case, you should exactly explain what are the advantages from DevOps engineer point of view. One, DevOps engineers are mostly not programmers. So when you look at JSON, so JSON is not that easily readable, whereas YAML is far easily readable. Because in JSON, objects are separated by parentheses. If you look at a JSON format, just if you quickly search over the internet, so you will find objects that are separated by parentheses, commas. which is something developers are very used to. Whereas as DevOps engineer, YAML makes it simple because lines are separated by new line characters and spaces and tabs, which is quite easy for DevOps engineers. Second thing, when it comes to YAML, one, it is very easy. And the other advantage of YAML is that you can add comments in YAML. For example, before this line, I can just add a comment explaining that, okay, the following line talks about key value pair assigned to the instance. The following line talks about tags assigned to the instance. With JSON, you cannot add such comments. And again, as DevOps engineer, when you're dealing with huge Kubernetes manifests, when you're dealing with CRDs, these tags help you a lot. So the answer to the question, while JSON has advantages over YAML, but as cloud engineer, YAML is very easy to read. Parentheses or commas is not that easy for separation. And in YAML, you can also add comments. Okay, so we learned what exactly is YAML, why is YAML used by DevOps engineers, now where YAML is used by DevOps engineers, right? Everybody keeps saying that YAML is important for DevOps engineers, but where is it used? There are multiple use cases. The popular ones are Kubernetes. So whenever you want to deploy Kubernetes resources, you want to deploy a Kubernetes pod, you want to deploy a Kubernetes custom resource definition or a custom resource. For any resource, you need to define the specification in YAML format. Similarly, when you want to deploy multiple containers, the popular one is Docker Compose, and even Docker Compose file is represented in the YAML format. Ansible, another important one. When it comes to configuration management, Ansible is widely used. And if you want to write playbooks or roles in YAML, in Ansible, YAML is used. CI/CD. Most of the CI/CD platforms these days are adopting YAML format. Best example is GitHub Actions, GitLab pipelines. In future, you will see more and more CI/CD pipelines moving from programming style. For example, Jenkins CI/CD pipelines today are written Groovy pipelines, but you will see modern programming languages start using CI/CD languages, start using YAML format. So these are some of the popular use cases where YAML is used. But Abhishek, as DevOps engineer, we already need to learn about a lot of new things. Do you think YAML is something that we can easily learn? 100% yes. Because when it comes to YAML, you just need to learn three things. If you learn these three things, trust me, YAML, you can write even thousands of lines of YAML file. And I'll prove this by the end of this video. I'll show you some Kubernetes YAML manifest. Before this video, you might have thought I cannot write this, but after learning these three things, right? I'm sure you will find those YAML files, even tens of lines, 100 lines YAML file, very easy to read. So what are these three things? First one, key value pair. Learn how to write key value pairs in YAML. What is key value pair? In key value pair, you have one key and you have one value. Best example, ID of EC2 instance. So your key becomes ID or ID becomes the key. So you write ID colon space. What is the value of the ID? So the value of the ID may be XYZ hyphen 123. So key value pair in YAML is represented using key colon space value. Perfect. You understood how to write key value pairs in YAML. Second, how to write lists in YAML. Okay. So how do you define lists in YAML? To define lists in YAML, you define one key. In the new line, just leave two spaces from the third alphabet or from the third character, hyphen value 1, hyphen value 2, hyphen value 3. Best example, right? Let's say you want to get, you want to provide a YAML which explains what are the tools that you know in DevOps, right? So in this case, there is no one-on-one equation. You don't know one tool in DevOps, you know multiple tools. So you will say tools colon one character, two characters, from the third character, hyphen Kubernetes, hyphen Docker, hyphen Ansible, right? So this is how you define lists in YAML. Now you already learned two things. You learned key value pair, you learned lists, right? Now the third thing is nested lists and dictionaries. That is, you need to learn how to write lists and dictionaries together, right? For example, I'll give you one example like why you need lists and dictionaries together. For example, someone asks you to provide server configuration, right? Just like EC2 instance configuration. Somebody said, Abhishek, I want a server configuration details where within the server, I want to know what is the name of the server and I want to know what are the ports opened on the server. So this is the requirement that you got from the developer. So server is the object. So how do you write that? Server colon, okay. Within server, they ask for name. Name is a key value pair. For name, there is only one value. So you will say name. Again, if you see, I left two characters. Name colon demo server. And they ask for ports. Ports is not one-on-one. Sometimes there can be multiple ports open on the server. So again, in the new line, you will leave two characters and you will say ports colon. Again, after two spaces, right from the third one, 80 is the port that is open. 8080 is the port that is open. 9091 is the port that is open, right? 3036 is a port that is open. That's it. See how easily now you know how to write combination of key value pair and the lists. And I explained that using a real life example. Developer asks for server configuration, where developer has to provide name of the server and ports of the server, which became a YAML object itself, because within server, you have a key value pair the developer is asking for and a list that is developer is asking for. So that's why you will define server, and within server, you will define this is the name and these are the ports. That's it. If you know these three, now you can write any YAML file, right? It doesn't matter how complex is a YAML file. Let me show you. So we will go to Kubernetes docs. Okay. And within the Kubernetes docs, let's search for pods. We'll look at a pod example, the YAML file example. Okay. Now let's try to see how is this YAML file written. So there is API version. What is API version? Key value pair. Kind, what is it? Key value pair. Metadata is a YAML object. Now you might ask, Abhishek, why metadata is a YAML object? Because within metadata, there can be bunch of key value pairs, right? Within metadata, there can be name, and then there can be, let's say, annotations. There can be labels. So that's why this became an object. And within the object, you have key value pair. Again, spec is a YAML object. Within spec, you have containers. In a pod, you know, there can be one container or there can be two containers. That's why there is this hyphen. What does this hyphen mean? That means there are one container or two containers. Right now, there is only one container. If there is another container, you will see another hyphen here, right? So I'll just copy paste. And if I put this in a YAM here, or we can just write it. So within the containers, imagine there are two containers. So how would that change to containers hyphen? What is the first container in this case? The first container is the Nginx container. The properties of the Nginx container, name colon Nginx, right? And there are a bunch of other properties. For example, I mean the key value pairs. This is the first key value pair. The other key value pair is image. Then the other key value pair can be something like port. And once this container is done, then again you will provide hyphen in the same line, and you will define name busybox. So this is one YAML object and this is another YAML object. Both of these YAML objects are part of the container, which is list of YAML objects, right? So this is the same concept. This is just like list of key value pairs, but instead we are using list of YAML objects. So whenever you see a list, you will use the hyphen. Okay, within the container, again, you have name, you have image, and ports, like I told you, is a list in itself where you are defining container port colon value of the port. So everywhere you go, there are only three things in YAML. One, key value pair. Two, lists. Three, combination of lists and key value pairs, right? So if you learn these three things, of course, you need to practice it a bit. You need to, try different examples of these, go through the Kubernetes documentation, go through CI/CD pipelines that are written in GitHub Action. Only then things become easy for you. Abhishek, is there a plugin or is there an extension that can help us? Yeah, if you'll go to Visual Studio Code and just search for extensions and look for YAML extension. So here you have a YAML extension that is provided by Red Hat. Just have it, and also have something like GitHub Copilot. So both of these things can help you with indentation and can help you with examples. For example, you can use both of these extensions and you can just start writing. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, whenever you are writing a YAML file, it's a good practice to provide 3 hyphens at the beginning of the file. So let's say I want to write Kubernetes pod manifest. Now, without looking at the documentation, you can take help of Copilot and you can take help of YAML extension and try understanding how each and every field is added. Okay, a key value pair called API version is added. Then a new field called metadata is added, which is combination of key value pairs or bunch of key value pairs. Then again, spec is added. Again, spec is a YAML object. Within spec, what do you have? You have container, which is a list. So yeah, keep practicing such examples and towards the end, you will find YAML pretty easy. So I'll conclude this video by explaining you in YAML, there are only 3 things: key value pairs, lists, and nested lists and dictionaries. I hope you found this video informative. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section. See you all in the next video. Take care. Bye bye, everyone.